So let's get to the Democratic side of this. Michigan Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin joining me right now. She, of course, a member of the Homeland Security and Armed Services Committee. And thank you for racing to the camera after that unsuccessful vote. Give me your sense of how you felt going into the vote and if you were surprised by the outcome.
I mean, look, we've been taking this vote, the same exact vote, every single day, pretty much. And so in what I think is happening is that every single day the numbers are remaining consistent, right? It's not changing. We don't see a ton of Democrats, weakening in the knees and changing their votes. And so I think that's sending in a signal, as you heard in the last comments there. I do think it's enough. Like, we want to be able to sit in a room and have a negotiation. We don't need to negotiate through the press. I don't need to watch, Senator Thune on TV in order to find out what he says he's offering Democrats. Just get in a room like adults do, and we can have this, out. It's going to start with health care, and I think he's said he's open to that. Great. Adults get in a room, they throw out the press, no offense, they throw out Twitter, and they just get to working, and that's the point that isn't happening. And no matter what Mr. Thune offers, I'm sorry, I got to know that President Trump is on board, because it's not enough anymore to take the word of Speaker Johnson or Senator Thune, because they have to go check with the big guy in the White House. So to me, this negotiation is about, frankly, going with the White House and having that debate, that negotiation together, so that we're not just like twiddling our thumbs here when Thune gets overruled or Johnson gets overruled.
What do you think the chances are that President Trump would come down to Capitol Hill, or a select group of senators and leaders in the House would go to the White House and have this conversation?
I mean, I think that's very possible. I mean, he just coming back from a successful trip to the Middle East. He's the art of the deal guy. I think if the president wants to get this done, we can get it done in 72 hours. But we got to have a conversation with the real decider. And right now, because the Senate Republicans have shown zero backbone, zero interest in preserving this branch of government. And Speaker Johnson just hasn't even been to work for 28 straight days. He just literally isn't working. So let's negotiate with the guy who can get things done, and that's President Trump.
Is there a perception that the party risks looking unreasonable, unwilling to compromise? Again, we heard what Senator Thune said in the face of, tepid perhaps, but at least some offers from Republicans.
I mean, you can't put an offer on TV and say you've done your offer. Like, we just came from the Senate floor. He was 20 feet away from me, right? Have conversations like a real negotiation. Everyone watching, whatever work they're in, knows what a real negotiation is. It's the people with different sides come into a room like adults, like we train our kids to do, and they sit down and they say, how far apart are we? How do we bridge that gap? And I'm a big girl, right? I understand that the Democrats don't have the White House. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the House. So I'm not going to get everything I want. I've accepted that. That compromise is not a dirty word to me, but I do feel very strongly that they have precipitated a health care crisis in America. Every single person I know is getting a notice about an increase to their price of health care for January. So, yeah, I'm going to fight on behalf of people who are not having access to care. They can't afford it anymore. But that doesn't mean I accept that I'm going to win everything. But to go on TV and say we've made offers and without checking with Trump, who's their boss at this point, and without actually having a formal conversation, invite us into the offices. We're here in the Capitol. We're working. I just think it's a little too cute by half to say that we've made offers when you do it on camera.
I was going to use the word disingenuous. I think they both make sense here and are applicable. Let me ask you about your constituents with whom I'm sure you've been speaking. What kind of hardship is this presenting for them as they contemplate potentially skyrocketing health care costs?
I mean, look, I think there's few bills in our lives that are as personal in some way or another as health care. And certainly it has been for me, right? And, I've had my own family issues with the price of health care and not having access to health care. And when you tell a working family that they're paying $300 now for their insurance, but it's going to go up to $750 in January, when you tell them that, a small business owner in Ypsilanti, Michigan, that you provide health care for your 7 employees at your child care center, but now it's going up $460 a month for everybody, and they're having to really contemplate not providing insurance to their employees who they care about. I mean, you're talking about real life stuff. This isn't some amorphous, abstract policy conversation in Washington. This is about your pocketbook, your kids, your health care, your access to a long life. And so I think we put out a call, and just said, hey, we keep hearing all these stories. Have you heard something from your healthcare provider? What notices have you got? We got like 500 plus letters in like 3 days. And I think the heart-wrenching thing about this is that, for some people, this is a political fight in Washington, and you're going to cover it that way. But for a lot of people, this is life and death. This is health care for their kids who have some, pre-existing condition. It's a real thing. And I think the people here have often lost sight of that. This is not some made-up thing. This is a health care crisis.
To that point you just said about how some people will play this off as political, I'd like to play what Speaker Johnson said earlier today about this, about how the implication being it's not just about health care. Take a listen.
This is not a healthcare fight. This is a very simple funding fight. It always was. They have created a red herring. The subsidies don't expire until the end of the year. We were always planning to have the thoughtful debate and deliberation over that in the month of October and November before the subsidies expired. They know that. They grabbed that issue from the end of the year and pulled it back into September to try to pretend like that was the issue. It never was.
What do you say to the speaker?
Talk to your own constituents in your own state.
The government shutting down is putting preparations for the IRS 2026 tax season on pause, with more than 34,000 federal workers at that agency alone furloughed. My next guest says the furloughs are leaving him feeling uncertain about his future, concerned that he could be fired altogether. And joining us now here in studio is Jack Neugebauer, a furloughed attorney at the IRS. Okay. Thank you for coming here. I know that you have been saying, look, I'm speaking on my own behalf. You're not speaking on behalf of anybody else. But it has been pretty tough for you and your coworkers. How long have you been furloughed now?
Well, the IRS had a few extra days of funding, so my furlough started last Wednesday. I got my last paycheck 2 days ago, and I'm not expecting one anytime soon. Okay.
So this comes at a time when you have, I think, 20 million Americans who file tax extensions. That was due yesterday, right?
Yes.
October 15.
Yes, it was.
So what happens with that? Does it all just go on hold? And are you all expected to just jump back in? Do you have the manpower if and when you're put back into the office working?
Yeah, obviously, the shutdown comes with a lot of delays at our agency. We have a setback where things are put behind schedule. For my work, I have schedules and appearances in court that are going to be put behind and be delayed as a result. So we all are operating behind schedule with the shutdown, and every day the shutdown just adds more delays, causes more problems. It means people are going to be getting their refund checks more slowly, and audits are going to be happening much more slowly as well.
Well, and you are an arm of the federal government that helps generate money for the government.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I say that means that everything that the government does is going to be operating at a slower pace. It means that, well, this shutdown isn't just about, obviously, I'm one arm of the agency, but across the government, the shutdown is going to cause problems. The people who work for the federal government, who are shut out from their jobs right now, who are furloughed, who are exempted employees, they're working without pay, or they're not working at all and they're not getting paid. And that means that regular government services that people rely upon are not being provided.
Is this really and truly about health care?
I do believe that the speaker is projecting. We are not playing politics here. We are in the business of trying to make sure millions of Americans have health care access, and there are no people dying because they can't afford to be insured in this country. This shutdown is essentially about the health care crisis that we are trying to prevent.
We heard Senate Majority Leader John Thune tell Ali Vitale Republicans are open to negotiating on health care. Seems like Republicans are moving slightly off their lily pad, according to Ali's reporting. So why not encourage your Senate colleagues, your Senate counterparts, to take him up on that offer and reopen the government in the meantime?
Well, it's kind of fascinating that Leader Thune would make that kind of statement on TV, but he is not willing to sit down and talk to Leader Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries here in the House. What we have been asking for as Democrats is to say, Republicans, you have control of the House, you have control of the Senate, you have control of the executive. It is your job to come to the negotiating table to make sure that we all have an understanding of what it will take for us to save the American people from the healthcare crisis that is upon them. And what the Republicans have refused so far is to come to the negotiating table, to have that conversation, and to tell us what they are willing to do so that we can, be able to negotiate with them.
How long can Democrats hold out here before this shutdown causes real harm to Americans? Don't both parties essentially lose out the longer this drags on? And the biggest loser in all of this is the American people.
I mean, the American people are going to be hugely impacted by the healthcare crisis that we are looking at. It is going to be severely devastating when some of the folks that we are talking about can see their subsidies go up to 75% increase. And that is going to be a huge devastation when we're going to see rural clinics closed down and people are not able to get the kind of healthcare access that they desire. So that is what the Democrats are really fighting for. And we just need our Republican counterparts who are in charge here to come to the negotiating table to understand that they don't have the votes in the Senate. And the only way that they are able to accomplish anything is by talking to and negotiating with Democrats.
This move by Trump, it's absolutely winning no one. And now he is going to be the reason regular people, let alone the public workers, but regular people aren't going to get their checks, their refund checks and other things like that. So even if you don't work for the federal government, there's a chance, and of course I would, I can't speak to your specific circumstance, that you won't get a check that you're owed because of Donald Trump. And remember, Trump can't have it both ways because this is the man. Remember back in 2020, and this ended up being a smart move by him, right? Biden didn't do it, and then a lot of people forgot that Biden helped them. But remember how when the stimulus checks went out, and remember the first batch actually went out under Trump, right? Because Democrats supported it and forced him to do it, but nonetheless, the checks went out when Trump was president. And when Trump was president, he made sure he signed them. So for Trump, he wants every time you get money from the government to be like, this is from Donald Trump. Even though it's not. Like, Donald Trump isn't giving you the money from a programmatic perspective. It's not coming from the White House, but from separate agencies. But he understood the optics of, when I give someone a check, they love me, and when I take their checks away, they blame me anyway because I'm the president, so I might as well take the credit. Well, Donald, now that here's the back end of the boomerang coming at you, because now you're the reason. Democrats are pointing it out. Look, we want a deal. We want a deal. We know we're not going to get everything. We know that Republicans are going to hurt the country. They have a majority, though. So in a sense, they have a right to do that. But we're not going to let them destroy the country forever by ruining healthcare. So you can do your largely Republican stuff. We just want to protect Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare premiums, keep them relatively non-insane, even though American healthcare is already insanely expensive. That's all we want. We want a deal. You're the ones holding the deal back, and you're the ones now not only putting workers out of work, but screwing people who are waiting for checks that they probably need in many cases. And Democrats pointing this out, that's a big deal.